Hey, Jamsters, how we doing? Suns Media Day today, which is kind of like, the kickoff, if you will. It's the first opportunity we have to see this new look 2022/23 Phoenix Suns team, and we can finally put the past behind us a little bit. So, Suns Media Day today, Matthew, how you doing, man? It's kind of like we've waited so long to get to this point where it's actually like, okay, finally, the Phoenix Suns, they're back. It's not the middle of July. It's not hot as balls out. We're not sitting there talking about the same shit over and over again. We actually have some new players, new storylines. How you doing?
Good. Yeah. I'm excited to hear about Media Day today, and I got to watch it on ESPN. So I was working while I was watching it. It made me so pumped. I was so pumped. Seeing those jerseys, we'll talk about them, but I mean, we're back, dude. Here we go. Another season. Everyone was talking about championships, so I'm pumped, man. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, and for those of you who are listening or watching along live on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, I actually attended Suns Media today, Suns Media Day today. So I'll talk kind of about my experiences, some of my observations there. And it'll be really fun, Matthew, because I want to know how you perceive some things, just watching it on TV.
Yeah.
Because it was a very interesting experience, to say the very least. For me, it's my first media day that I've gone to. I was scheduled to go to it last year, and then my company is like, hey, we need you to hop on a plane on a Monday morning and fly to Sacramento for something. And I remember I was so frustrated last year. I was like, man, it's going to go to my first Suns Media Day, and I got denied. But you know what? I was blessed to have the opportunity to go today with the Bright Side of the Sun gang, both myself, Dave King, Damon Allred, and Trevor Booth, all representing Bright Side of the Sun, were there today to ask those hard-hitting questions. I'm just kidding, Matthew. I didn't ask one fucking question.
I was going to say, did they tell you before, like, hey, it's your first time, like, no questions yet, just kind of feel it out thing, or what was it?
No, Dave pretty much said, like, hey, the national guys are going to get a lot of the early questions, especially with CP3 and Booker and James Jones and Monty, but as time progresses and the national pundits and even some of the local, Dwayne Rankin, although he was there pretty much the whole time, but, Cameron Cox from Channel 12 and Mark McClune from Channel 3/5, as they kind of filtered out to go start working on their actual stories about what they were observing, that was a good opportunity for us to ask questions. And I was like, you know what? I know I'm going to be back at Suns Media Day another year. I'll ask questions then. I just wanted to absorb everything.
I was nervous, dude. I was nervous thinking, like, if I had asked a question, my heart was racing, man. You know what I mean? Because it's another level.
Well, yeah,
it's
you don't want to pick it up.
Yeah. Like, we start the pod, I'm nervous, and I get over it. Then we start, like, having people on, I'm nervous, now I'm over it. The next thing is, like, asking a player a question or a coach with their kind of voice too, like they're talking to a mountain, man.
It's like, I'm gonna have a conversation with you on this, and I have a serious question to ask. It's like, Mr. Booker, is it true that you got a massive hog? Like, you can't do that. They'll kick you out of the presser, if you will. So
you'll be done
on that one. So plenty to talk about relative to Suns Media Day today. Again, thank you for watching or listening. Make sure you subscribe, rate, and review wherever you're consuming this content. If you're watching along live on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button. Helps with algorithms or something. And if you're listening to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, leave us a 5-star review. That means you have to write something. Or if you're on Spotify, you just click 5 stars. We appreciate it as per usual. Matthew, you popping open something tonight to celebrate Suns Media Day?
No, not tonight. I just had some peas and stuff, so I had some water to wash it down with.
Well, I mean, I could utilize my fancy new water bottle they gave to all media members today.
Yeah, you got a little bag going in there, or a little.
They gave you a little water bottle,
bag?
little water bottle, and they gave me a media pass that said 2020/21 on it.
I saw that it was 21-22, right?
Yeah, it was last season's. Because why wouldn't Robert Sarver on his way out be like, recycle as much shit as you can?
What was your one from last year you can go to?
There you go. But I'm going to have another long drink, the Finnish long drink, a traditional citrus with grapefruit and juniper berry flavor. So pop them if you got them, Suns fan. New season's about to start, so pop them. Let's talk about Suns Media Day. Media Day 2022/23 2022 as we prepare for the 2023 season. And the first question I'll ask is, Matthew, what was it like consuming it on ESPN? As Brunist92 states or asks, I'm sorry, in the chat, how was the vibe? What vibe were you getting from the Phoenix Suns through the television set watching ESPN?
Well, first of all, I was just excited because you were there. So I was looking for you on the TV because they had the off camera whenever someone would step up to the podium. So I'm like, oh, where's John at? Did you have a hat on or no?
I did.
Okay. I think I saw you
I was wearing my work stuff, but you know what?
Okay.
I was telling Dave King, I'm like, if I don't wear a hat, no one's going to recognize me. If I'm walking around rocking the bald head like this, like no one's going to, they're like, Uncle Fester.
Yeah.
You know, so I had I wore a hat, you know,
Yeah.
I had to wear something that at least people could, all the Jamster faithful could recognize in the room.
It was cool. It was just good to see those guys in those jerseys coming up. It's a hard day. I mean, they had to talk about a lot having to do with Sarver and all the bad stuff that happened. So it was kind of a downer in that way. It wasn't anything that kind of gets you going in the season other than just seeing the players and just knowing that they were there at the facility. They're practicing. They've been practicing. But it was cool. It's been a while since I've seen these players in an interview, and usually interviews I'm kind of just like, yeah, whatever. But I like to see them up there, especially starting with James Jones and Monty Williams, just hearing from those guys and just knowing like we got a good team behind us and behind them, and they have a great roster, going down the roster, just, towards the end of the media day, I'm like, dude, these guys, I forgot this. Dario was there. I was like, when Dario showed up, I was like, oh, okay. I was happy, but I'm even
You're
happy
standing in your living room, just.
I forgot. Yeah. I forgot that he was on the team because he hasn't played in forever. But I was excited for a media day. Windhorst did say on ESPN that it seemed like a dentist office waiting room in there because it was just kind of like, you know what I mean, compared to every other media day he went to. So it's interesting to hear from you, even though it's your first one. How did it feel in there? Did you feel like Windhorst was like kind of let down going to the media day today?
Well, so I'll start with the fact that I got there early, as you know me, I typically do, if not early or late kind of mentality. And I'm waiting for the other guys for Brightside to show up. So I'm walking down Jackson because it happened at this establishment called Events on Jackson, which is located just south of the stadium. Now, this used to be Jackson's on 5th.
It used
to be a bar where back in the day, me and my friends used to get schlitzed before we go to Suns games or Diamondback games. So as I'm walking by, I'm like, oh shit, this is where it's at. So I'm walking, I'm texting, and as I'm texting, I kind of look up and like James Jones is just walking by me, like on the phone.
Yeah.
It's very casual, very casual atmosphere as we prepare for media day. And then I go inside, I get the media pass and I wait, the guys all arrive, and then we kind of go in and if Windhorst said that it was like a dentist office waiting room, he nailed it. And I don't know if you saw what Mark J. Spears said, but he said it was one of the saddest, most somber environments he's ever been to. So from a vibe standpoint, it was, there's a cloud that hangs over this organization as they enter this season that it has nothing to do with what happened on the basketball court. You have a team that has plenty to prove, and they have even more to overcome relative to the organizational issues, right? They have a disgraced owner. They have a player who, modeling Eric Bledsoe, just doesn't want to be there. So there's not going to be a very jubilant environment in there. So as you go in, the podium's there. You got a ton of cameras, a bunch of chairs, which thankfully for me, there was plenty of space because, again, as I've stated on like 3 consecutive podcasts, I'm having sciatic issues right now. So like I had to kind of sit down, stand up, sit down, stand up, stand in the back of the room,
Yeah.
But yeah, as both of those, and that was probably the most interesting thing to me, was the fact that both Mark J. Spears and Brian Windhorst were in the room, because media day is going on at all organizations today, yesterday. Every one of these 30 NBA teams is conducting these events, and you have 2 of these pretty heavy hitters when it comes to national pundits and influencers and reporters from ESPN there in that room. And it goes to show you exactly how much of a spotlight truly is on this organization, truly is on the events that have surrounded this organization leading up to this day, and as we prepare to embark upon this season. So yeah, once I got in there and I was just kind of hanging out, I'm like, oh shit, Windhorst is like right in front. I was like right there. They're like both sitting right in front of me. I was like, all right, cool. Let's just see how this plays out. Now, Windhorst didn't ask any questions. Mark J. Spears had a bunch of questions, but of course,
Yeah, I heard
James
him.
Jones. Jones is the first one to come out, and boom, you're going right into the Sarver questions. And I mean, how are you supposed to be jubilant in that kind of situation?
True, but also, I remember last year because of COVID, everyone sitting down and the players coming up to the podium one at a time, and it was the same way this year. But I always remember media day being in just a big gym where everyone's walking around, they're taking pictures, they're asking questions. So I feel like that might have had something to do with it, right? A little bit. I know the questions were tough, but do you think they had it set up like this because of what happened in the off season and all the crap that's going on with Jae Crowder and all that stuff? Because I think if they were walking around in the gym, like their new practice facility, and they were doing all the pictures there and all that stuff, I think it might have been a little bit better. Like the atmosphere might have been a little bit more of what Windhorst was looking for, a little bit more, just something where he might want to come back next year because I don't think anyone's going to come back again next year if it's set up that way again.
Well, I mean, as you walked around the building, it was set up for, I mean, pictures were happening. You turn around the corner, they have the big spread. They had the big spread, for all the media to kind of hang out. Because as the day progressed and as the primary hitters, in CP3 and Booker had already spoke, that's when a lot of the national pundits walked into the room where they could sit there with a bunch of food and actually type out what they were going to put on their sites. They had, their cameramen were there. They were doing their live reports right there. I mean, if you look at the Mark J. Spears, I walked right behind him right before he was getting ready to do that. And then just off to the side of him, so there was plenty of spaces where they were taking the pictures. And that was probably one of the best moments of the entire thing is when CP3 walked in.
The point guard.
Jones, Monty Williams was next. And then the point guard walks in. That's the first time any of us really saw them in the new Statement Edition jerseys. And man, I'm not going to lie. Like, I don't know if I'm going to buy any more jerseys, but I can't wait to see the merchandise that comes with this Statement Edition shit because it looked fantastic on the players. For those of you who didn't see it or haven't seen it yet, it mirrors what the Suns used to wear about 3 seasons ago when DeAndre Ayton was in his second year with the PHX kind of across the chest when Josh Jackson was drafted, right? And the numbers kind of have the pixelization that the Valley had, but it's the piping on these things that are just it's fresh, man. It's fresh.
Yeah, they look good on the players. These are not jerseys that I would actually buy. When I first saw them, I was like, I knew they were coming out. I knew what they kind of looked like. They're kind of taken from what Utah did again this year. You know what I mean? Everyone was kind of comparing the two, but they look nice on the players. Like they're going to look so much better on Friday nights than that stupid orange crap that we had the last 2 years. So those replace them. And I'm going to love seeing them on the court. It's going to look really good in that way. I would not buy those jerseys. The Sunbursts, I love the Sunbursts, but I don't think the Sunbursts look as good on the players as I thought they would. You know what I mean? So I was just thinking even the merchandise that the Suns players are walking into with, did you see they had different shirts on and stuff? Those look kind of cool. So there was a few shirts. I was like, oh, that looks nice. I might get a couple shirts, but the jerseys themselves, other than the Sunburst, I'm not gonna purchase any of them. I don't think but they look like DA look good, and DA looks the best in those uniforms.
Yeah, man.
He really does.
Yeah, and even CP3, man, I was just like, okay, nice, clean look, and then you go into the standard line of questioning that the majority of the players got, what was your thoughts on Robert Sarver and almost to a T, none of, not one player was like, oh, I heard him say derogatory things. All of them are like, that's, it's kind of news to me. I feel for the people. Everyone was at, Mark Spears kind of kept asking everybody, as a man of color, what is your take on this? How do you communicate that to your son? And even Chris Paul was like, I don't even think I've talked to my son about it.
Yeah, he did say that. Yeah.
So it was after those kind of awkward lines of questioning, what was interesting about the Chris Paul interview, and I talked a little bit about this in between breaks with Dave King, is, Dave was like the last 2 seasons with Chris Paul, it was like, yo, we got to go get a championship. Let's go get a championship. And this press conference, it was more like, hey, I enjoyed my summer. I really had a good time off, so it's like one of my concerning takeaways from this event, 2 main takeaways. One, it was a somber event. It was like going to a funeral, it's like the death of Sarver, which is a good thing. But at the same time, organizationally, it's got to be tough on just everybody, because they know that this is just the beginning of this line of questioning, right? Like this is the first opportunity that anybody had. And anytime they're going to have a post-game presser and they're going to sit there on a Tuesday night after they beat the Pelicans in New Orleans, and the New Orleans media has an opportunity to talk to Chris Paul, a former, player who played in that city. They're like, hey, Chris Paul, you had 16 points and 10 assists tonight. What are your thoughts on Robert Sarver using the N-word? Like they're going to get this line of questioning all season long. And you can see that it's already like, they're already kind of in that mind frame of like, dude, like we're already tired of this, right? They're already tired of it. That's what I took away.
Yeah, and Monty did say where he said in the beginning where he's just like, I can say one of my cheesy catchphrases. I can tell him like stand up in front of the team and say that.
Yeah.
But this is something where he doesn't feel like it's over with, and that we shouldn't put it in the past. We should carry it kind of in a way, carry it on their shoulders through the season.
Mm-hmm.
Like don't forget about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
With Chris Paul,
people won't let him.
No, it's going to happen all season. So that's what they're prepared for. Chris Paul did seem a little different. Like I talked about his last press conference before Game 7, like he just seemed kind of more mellow and like as if basketball was just secondary, which it should be. Like his family's first and all that stuff. But it's kind of like it's a different kind of Chris Paul. He's more mellow. He seemed a little bit nervous too up there. I know he's the first player up there. He seemed like kind of like hesitant. And I was going to ask you, like his answers were kind of off, right? I don't feel like he could hear the questions. Could you hear the questions at all? Or
the acoustics in this place were really, really bad.
Yeah, the videos people took and put on Twitter, I couldn't hear anything.
I took a bunch of videos and like I'm going back right now. I'm writing some articles for Bright Side of the Sun. My first one's going to be about DeAndre Ayton, and I have my AirPods in on full blast, trying to transcribe some of the different quotes. And I mean, it was bad. It's bad in there.
It's bad, right?
Who was it? Was it DA who told somebody to speak up?
Yeah. He told Dwayne Rankin to speak up.
Dwayne's like, oh, this.
Yeah, no. Because DA was,
because DA was kind of on one. We'll talk about him momentarily.
Yeah.
But Chris Paul seemed like he was, Chris Paul was going through the political answers.
Yep.
He was going right down the line, and then, people were asking about the offseason, and he was talking how much he embraced it. And, again, having that conversation with Dave King about the different mentality, the different vibe, if you will, that Chris Paul has given off in the past. It's something that you have to keep note of and keep track of as we enter the season, is how focused is Chris Paul. He's 37 years old. He's not on the back nine of his career, man. He's like walking into the fucking clubhouse at this point. He's trying to go into the 19th hole and get a beer and sit down with somebody and chill. Like good, bad, or indifferent, that's just the reality of Chris Paul. And one thing that Monty Williams stated when he was talking about, his shortcomings last year is he noted that, in fact, this is a quote I actually transcribed. He said, I think that one of the things I did not do a good job of last year is allow for other guys to grow their abilities to initiate offense, which gets a lot of pressure off Chris, which allows him to be fresher. And I think that that's something that we're going to have to really pay attention to, as two guys who are doing post-game podcasts every game this season. We're going to be taking a look at if that's indeed happening, that Chris Paul has finally kind of let go a little bit of some of the control that he craves, desires, and for, better or worse, owns as much as he can. And if other members of this team are actually going to be allowed to initiate some offense and grow and develop into the players that they can be.
Yeah, and you never wanted to have the return of the Mike D'Antoni thing with Steve Nash. Like, I always thought that was in the past, but that'll never happen again where we run one of these players into the ground. I know Mikhail played every game, but when you have a player like Chris Paul who's this old, you never think it would actually happen. But then when Monty said that, I'm like, oh, like you actually were. Like you didn't trust. I'm not saying he didn't trust, but maybe he didn't have time. Maybe he didn't have the time and practice to really let some of these players like Mikal Bridges or even DeAndre Ayton have like more of a playmaking, just a role. I'd always just thought, I'm like, there's no way this is going to happen. And it might have been the thing last year where Chris Paul was just taking on so much. And towards the end, like Steve Nash, it was just too much. He got too tired. And I'm so glad, like all the rumors with SGA and him coming to the Suns, like things like that, where even Flex talked about it. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but the Suns fans are very excited to get another playmaking guard like SGA, a scorer, and someone that can like just extend this timeline even more when Chris Paul does retire and take a lot of the minutes off this season, because that's going to help them in the long run. Like these guys are so young, and he's the oldest one there. He needs to like take those minutes down by 10 at least, right? And they need a guy like an SGA to take those minutes from him, where we can just, pile on the wins, and like someone that can actually take over this team leading to the future. So it was kind of weird to hear that, but I mean, I guess you have no option as a coach, right? That's the only thing you practice. That's the only thing you have as a game plan is Chris Paul really taking over and being the guy. So you have no other choice. So, I mean, I can sit here and be like, oh, like I was kind of upset. I'm like, oh, is this another Steve Nash thing? But the guy really has no choice but to play Chris Paul that much.
Well, and he also has a long-standing relationship with Chris Paul and trusts him completely.
Yeah,
so as if I go to you and I ask something of you and I go, Matthew, what are your thoughts on this? Whatever you say, I'm going to trust in you because we have a long-standing relationship. And if you tell me it's one way, then I'm going to follow that. So if Monty Williams goes to Chris Paul and be like, hey, maybe we should cut down your minutes and maybe we should start to allow other members of this team to initiate the offense, whether it's DeAndre Ayton down on the block, doing a couple back downs and an opportunity to try to open up some weak side opportunities. Or if it's, letting Devin Booker take the ball up more, things just as small as that. If Monty goes to Chris Paul and Chris Paul's like, no, like what we got is working. We're winning games, which they were last year. So let's just stick to the script. You know what? Monty Williams is going to follow him. But I think that, the self-reflection that Monty Williams had, and one of the great points that Monty Williams made during media day today was, you know what, guys? This is the first summer that we've had that you would classify as a normal summer. You know what I mean? Like you go back and don't get me wrong. Like he did say that the summer was longer than he wanted it to be because obviously he wanted to extend the Suns playoff runs to the NBA finals, but you go back and you look that, 2019/20 was the last time there was a regular offseason. The pandemic shortened the offseason leading into 2021. And following the Suns making the NBA finals in 2021, because the NBA was trying to get their schedule back on track, the offseason of 21-22 was shortened and the Suns have been in the finals. So this was the first time, and player after player was stating this. It's like, hey, we actually had an offseason. And this was kind of the narrative that there's two narratives that I really found to ring true with the players. Anything relative to the Sarver situation, control what you could control. Devin Booker said it. Mikhail said it. Cam Johnson said it. They all said, just, you got to focus. You can only control what you can control. And the other thing is everybody's saying like, Kevin Durant, there was rumors about that. There was additions, subtractions. But the one thing that nobody is accounting for, and this is something I'll give you and I a little credit, Matthew, because we do talk about this all the time. This is a team that now is a year older. And this is a young core that many of the players are entering their prime that's now a year older. And they've now had a full offseason to work on things, to develop that skill set. So this isn't the same team as last year when you look at the roster, but it is a better team than last year because that talent is now a year older.
Yeah, they're practicing on their stuff and they have the time. And it's interesting because Monty talked about, man, he's like, you're going to see some stuff in these players. And just to hear him say that, you're going to see some stuff where it's going to surprise you. A lot of these guys have improved that much. And that's exciting because that's what we wanted last year. We wanted last year to go into last year, or last summer going into this year, last year. Was that confusing enough? We were just excited to see these young guys and their talent, to see how much they blossom. But then you realize, of course, the summers were so short. But now we can see it. I mean, they got bounced in the second rounds, and they had plenty of time to work on stuff. And they all talked about, including DA, where they've been in the gym and they've been working on stuff. And I know I saw a comment earlier about DA doesn't really look bulked up, but I don't want him to get so bulked up.
I think it's the other way. I think somebody said somebody said McCoy said DA hasn't bulked up. He looked malnourished.
No, keep him that way, man.
Yes.
He's fine. He just
think of
needs
Anthony Davis.
Mentally... Yeah, exactly. You don't want to bulk up in the NBA.
You want to.
I always got on Amari for that, but Mari was smart, never did. So
who do you want to talk about next?
Should we talk about him, Mr. DA?
Watch.
All right, DeAndre Ayton.
Yay.
So what was your perception of DeAndre Ayton on ESPN? How did you take that presser?
I loved it. I was clapping my hands. It's not like I can't sit here and say, oh, this is the DA I've always wanted, right? Maybe he was just tired this morning. Maybe he just didn't want to deal with the media. But it just felt like to me, man, where he's just like, it was more of like a KD feel where he's just like, the media, you guys can just go suck it. I'm sick of being the funny guy in a way. I'm sick of just having these jokes, saying things and them not coming true. Like he would always present to us certain situations in the future where he's like, I'm the next Shaq. We're the next Shaq and Kobe, him and Booker. You know, that hasn't happened yet. So maybe he's just done talking and he's just ready to prove himself. I feel like he has a responsibility now to make sure that he will earn his money. I don't know. I don't think he's upset about the money part, but I think either him or someone told him like, hey, dude, like, you know what? Like maybe some of this was on you. You could have actually got your money earlier. You could have got paid like a number one pick like you should have. Did you put in the work? Did you do the time behind the scenes? And we keep hearing that he is now. And it seems like a different kind of guy. And all the team talked about him being in the gym. And I want him to just be an FU guy. Like, but that's just so selfish. We want that because he's the number one pick. He's a big dude. Cameron Johnson said he's a 2K player. My player.
Yeah,
like, if anybody's going to create one, they create DA. And I'm thinking like, I don't want to be selfish to think to myself, like, I want him to be that guy. But now that I saw him up there and even like the photos and stuff, he just looks like pissed off. His body language, his demeanor, everything looks a little different. Just like he's just ready to go to work. He's sick of talking and he's going to prove to everybody, hey, I've been working on shit and I'm going to be amazing this year. Enough of me not being a first, second, or third team all NBA center. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like he has high aspirations this year, man, to get to like certain awards, to just prove that he can actually be an all-star because he wanted to be an all-star his rookie year. So the way the Suns team goes, you always say the wings. I always think it's DA, and it's going to be amazing, man. If this guy comes out and he's just like a different kind of guy out there on the floor, and I can just see it, but maybe he was just tired. Who knows?
Well, it was interesting because DA entered the door right over where I was standing at the time. So everyone was kind of coming in off of the right side of the room. You know, they're getting their pictures taken. They're doing, you know, the holding the ball, you know, like Suns country. Let's ride. They're doing like that. And then DA came in from the door I was standing next to. And he came in and he was kind of in a jubilant mood. I've said jubilant like 3 times now, so I'll stop that. He was kind of in a cheery mood. He was smiling. There was a staff member he like hugged real quick. And then like, and like I was standing right there and I'm not going to lie. When DA entered the room, as a fan, you know, like I'm there to cover it for Brightside, and I will. But like at the end of the day, like I'm a fan. You know, like I'm a little kid inside. I'm a 39-year-old kid, and I see DA, and he was the one I was most excited to see. You know, because like I love DA, I do. I you know, you look at this past offseason, I said that I didn't think that he was worth a max contract personally. But if they wanted to pay him that, I'm 100% for it. Anything to keep DA. I want DA on this team. I think that what he brings to this team is very, very valuable. So when he walked in, I was just like, oh, shit, hell yeah. And then I see him kind of smile. And it was like I literally saw him smile, turn, and like just go into like a zone. Nice. And you talk about like Shaq and Kobe. He sounded like fucking Shaq. He's like, well,
yeah, he did.
So, like I couldn't hear half of the shit he was saying. And I literally, he's the one, I recorded his entire presser on my phone. And I'm going to go back tonight and just try to hear it. Just try to understand what he was saying. You know, like I could hear it while I was there, but I'm like, this cannot be recording well. This cannot be recording well. And it's interesting because it's hard to really understand how to perceive DA in that moment, right? I mean, the perception that you got is just like he's in like fuck it mode and focus mode. And that's what some people took from the DA presser. This guy just looks locked in and focused. And I mentioned to Dave King, it's like, well, DA's got a million personalities, right? And normally he's, you know, kind of joking and, you know, he's engaged DA. This was a very disengaged, monotone DA. I mean, literally the first question that he gets is a question from Dwayne Rankin from Arizona Central. And he was just like, what was your initial reaction once the Suns matched the Pacers offer? And he simply replied, I was happy. It was all done, I guess. And like, that was it. And, you're just like, whoa. And that's the opening question. And everything after that, they asked him the Sarver stuff. He's just like, well, it sucks. Kind of feel bad for the families. It's just like boom, boom, boom. And the way that I perceived it being in the room was disengaged and maybe a little upset. Maybe just kind of like, you got to think of the DA saga, right? Like, this is a guy who did not get the rookie contract last year and essentially had to play the entire season, knowing that he didn't get the max rookie deal when he stated he wanted it, when all these people from his fellow draft class received it. And here was a guy who had to play and didn't have it, right? First non first overall pick to not get a max rookie deal since the kid from Cleveland who sucked. I don't remember the guy's name.
Anthony Bennett.
There you go. So says Jay's in the chat. Maybe he was up late playing.
I'm surprised no one said that. I'm surprised no one said that. I didn't see that on Twitter.
Justin, I'm going to put that in my fucking article that I'm writing for Brightside right now. It's literally what I'm going to finish up once I'm done here. But, I was just like, okay, is this like a sign again of Ayton's immaturity? But as I've thought about it a little bit more, I think of the maturity he did display last season. Because he's a guy who didn't get a rookie contract, and because he's a guy who, rather than swim against the stream and try to go out there and do everything he can to pour in as many points as he can, or throw fits when he didn't get the ball, he's a guy who went out there, he averaged 17 and 10, and he helped an organization achieve their highest win total of all time. He did, whenever he was called upon, he delivered. Did he deliver in the way that Suns fans want him to do, doing fucking windmill dunks and, like the Suns gorilla jumping off trampolines and doing front flips and to make a dunk? No. But he got the job done in the manner in which we needed to get done. And he got his bag, and now I'm hoping he's in lockdown mode. Because as you said, Matthew, all of his fellow teammates were referencing that he's been in the gym. They asked him how his summer was. He's like, I got a 1-year-old. He's like, I'm playing dad.
I love that answer.
And I was just like, there we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
And it's great you brought up the 1-year-old. I love that. I think that the I guess thing, after he was asked about his contract, he's like, I'm happy, and then just like, I guess, or whatever. That was kind of weird. But I remember Booker used to be more involved in the media. He used to talk more. Now it's just like, if it's just a presser or something, he's very quick and short. That's the way it seems like DA is now. Like, he's not as charismatic as he once was, which is awesome. I hate that. I hope we're not molding. Oh, what's up?
Saying he's like a business only kind of guy.
Yeah, exactly. I hate that. I hope we're not trying to like mold him into a certain player that we want. Because James Jones always said like DA is who he is. But maybe he's just like, he wants that respect now. Because he's like, okay, next time I get paid, I don't want it to be this way. I want it to be a for sure thing. And he knows for sure that he has it in him to where it can be a for sure thing. He can put up the stats. He can be an all-star. It can be he's a no-brainer. He can be like a Booker, where these contracts come as soon as they're ready. You know what I mean? So I think that this season is going to be interesting. Ayton watch will never die. It's always going to be a thing.
Well, and I think that was another thing that was exciting about having him walk in the room. It's like, you know what? DA walked in the room and we got this guy locked down now.
Yeah.
Like, he's a member of this team as well. He should be. He was a part of this young core. He will continue to be a part of this young core. And then, my big thing was seeing all the other players and Monty talk about his development in the offseason. And again, the narrative around DA will always be one that is that walks that line, that essentially is between a player who is admired for the way that he can, play with finesse. He's flexible, the way that he plays in the NBA with his kind of current switchability, or he's going to be somebody who's going to be criticized for his lack of aggression, his inconsistency, and his value for the money spent. Because at the end of the day, like, he's not going to put up max centered like kind of numbers, but he's going to affect this team in a way that's going to allow them to win. And I think that that's important. And I'm not going to lie. Like, when he walked in, I was excited to go, you know what? DeAndre Ayton is still a member of this team, and that makes me happy.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to.
Yeah. And just really quick, Brunis92 says MVP season. I do agree with the most improved season. I think that could be something that DA can get. And I don't really care about those awards at all. But if that happens, then we know that he had a very successful season this year coming up.
No, 100%. His odds, I think I wrote a piece on it. I think he's 10th for most improved player. I think that's where he ended up landing. So, Go get it, DA. Go get it. I think he can definitely.
Yeah. I was excited. I seriously was clapping and laughing to myself watching.
I knew you were
watching him up there. I'm like, this
I-
is awesome.
I knew. Yeah, it was
I don't care.
fantastic. Who do you want to talk about next? Let's talk about this guy.
Big Dick Booker.
Good question about his hog. I was just joking earlier, but when Booker comes in, it's obviously a big season for Devin Booker. He's on NBA 2K. He made the shout out. He's like, for all those people who, know that I'm a big gamer, this means a lot to me. And I thought that, Devin Booker is going to be that one guy who this season, I feel like we're really going to see we're going to see a big difference in a lot of players. I think that Cam Johnson, Mikhail Bridges, Deandre Ayton, we're going to see massive jumps in talent. Devin Booker, I think what we're really going to see is just consistency. He's just going to be locked in. For the most part, he has been consistent over the past 2 seasons, and that's why the Phoenix Suns have been successful. He has more peaks than he does valleys. But I think we're just going to see a different level of basketball player in Devin Booker. And, the way he came out, the way he presented himself, it was kind of a rocky start because, he again was like, hey, like that wasn't the Robert Sarver I know. Every interaction I've had with him, he's been a stand-up guy kind of thing. And it's like, yeah, it's kind of cringy now because, it's like listening to an R. Kelly song or a Michael Jackson song. Although Michael Jackson, you can still listen to and like get past some of the stuff. But R. Kelly, it's like, you just can't listen to it anymore. It's like, hearing these players talk about Robert Sarver, it's super cringy. But once you got kind of past that and he started to share some of his excitement, it was really fun and cool, man.
Yeah, Michael Jackson, I mean, it can go both ways. Depends what side you take with him.
Depends on what song it is.
Yeah. Booker and Sarver, it seemed like they hung out more than usual, like more than I think a player and owner did. And I think Sarver was always good to him. So, of course, he's not going to see that side, but maybe Sarver did change when Book came. Who knows? You know what I mean? Like, I'm just saying, I don't even want to get into it, but
yeah, I don't either.
Who knows? But he didn't see a lot of it. So he handled the press conference very well. I just think that Booker, you're talking about his consistency coming up this year. I just keep thinking about the first 2 games he played against the Pelicans before he got hurt, especially that first quarter before the fist bump with the baby.
Yeah.
He was lights out. Like that fucking player, that's the guy that's going to be this year. Like he's unstoppable.
Just got to take care of those soft tissues,
force.
man.
Exactly. If he can stay healthy, but his next thing is just becoming unstoppable. You know what I mean? It's just like, he's just like the way Ingram played in that series, how he was unstoppable. Like that was going to be Book if he could have kept healthy. So I'm looking forward to this year with him. It's his 8th season. Jordan won it in his 7th season, right? The title. Yeah, but I love when Booker said, like, my goal is just to win a title here. And he's like, I'm not going to leave here till I do, or something like that. Like that made me happy. Almost teared up a little bit.
Yeah, me too. I mean, it's just like, he talked about, Phoenix, and he wants to put, being on the cover of 2K puts Phoenix on the map, and what it means to sign that extension and know that he's going to continue to be a part of the city. Again, it's just like, the thing that the Phoenix Suns have done in an environment in which stability and consistency don't very often exist in a league that don't allow for those 2 things to occur. We've built a team that is going to be stable and consistent for years to come. Now, a million things could happen. The whole Jae Crowder situation is another thing that every, player kind of addressed, and, they love and miss their brother, but they understand the business side of this, and he wants what's best for him, and as do they, especially when you talk to Cam and Mikhail about it. That's their NBA vet. That's the guy they came up in the league learning from, was Jae Crowder. But for the most part, this core will continue to be just that, is a core. And it's something that I really hope that Suns fans appreciate, because not a lot of organizations have this. Go around the league and look at it. I mean, you're flipping cards all the time, trying to find the right combination. And it's the teams that, for the most part, have those, you look at the Warriors over the past decade, and it's their core that's allowed them to be successful, because they can almost close their eyes and play basketball together because they've played so many minutes together. And the Phoenix Suns are right there. We're a team that, when these guys walk in the room, it's not like, oh, hi, who are you? Every guy I saw walk up there today was a guy I knew, and I've written about, I've followed. We have drops for already. I'm not sitting here trying to struggle to come up with a new drop for a new guy, because all the guys I saw today had, they're part of this team. We're running it back with a team that's more experienced. And, seeing Devin Booker come up there and display his leadership, display his cool, calm, and collective demeanor, and know that he's just a killer. And again, he looked good in them threads, man. Those threads look nice.
Yeah, they do, definitely. And on all those players, I just feel like if we ever do win, it'll be one of those things where it's like, see, like we almost traded all this away for Kevin Durant, who, it's a mystery with that guy. So you're right, dude. Every player that came up today, I got more and more excited. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the next guy who came up. The Warden. When Kale came up, it was finally like it was like mom and dad had been talking at the dinner table the whole time, and to like tell a joke. And like when Mikhail came up, the first thing he says, "Let's go Rams." A day after Arizona, got to display his affection for his Rams team. He talked about, again, Jae Crowder, and the reason that he wore yellow shoes was a nod to Jae Crowder because he saw him do it in the finals the year prior when the Heat were in the NBA finals in the NBA bubble. But just hearing from Kale, hearing him talk about, being somebody who, when he first came out here from the East Coast, this was he didn't want to be here. He was pissed. And now, like, he loves Phoenix. He loves walking around, how nobody kind of knew who he was when he first moved out here. Now people know who he is, and it's not, as fun necessarily as it used to be. But what'd you see from Mikhail during his press conference?
You know what? I only saw bits and pieces. So ESPN took it off after, I think it was after Booker, maybe. But yeah. So I didn't get to see the whole thing, but I just saw him he was really happy with just being here. He was talking about, of course, he doesn't want to be anywhere else. He doesn't want to play anywhere else. He doesn't even want to go back home in the summer. He wants to stay here, which is awesome to hear. Him and Cameron Payne they're so delighted still to be here, right? After the KD news kind of just fell through, they're like, woof, like we're still here because they want to be. It's insane.
Like, oh yeah, the whole Brooklyn situation, because his name was brought up in that. So he was
he probably was going to be one of the guys involved. And it's crazy to hear him just say, he loves it here that much, but you see it all the time. He's always on Twitter engaging with fans, and you see it on YouTube, his videos of him being at the bars and stuff. Like, he wants to be here, and that makes it even more special when they do win it. But it just makes this team just play at a higher level. I feel like just knowing that him and Cameron Payne, a guy coming off the bench, still trying to prove himself as a guard in the NBA, just want to be here, so that that they're just going to play that much harder for this team, and they already have. But then, like we said, with the whole summer, and like I heard Mikhail looked a little bit bulkier. I don't know if that's true. With the whole summer,
when he was sitting there, like I looked at his arm, I go, yeah, it's got a little muscle. Now, then when he got up and you walked out, he's still got them skinny ass legs, and I was like,
okay. was his hand on your leg all the way from the podium?
Yeah, he's like you. He's like, yeah. Well, I'll tell you, one of the guys who I was highly impressed by.
Lights, Cameron, action.
Did you get a chance to see any of the Cam Johnson presser?
I saw parts, just like Mikhail, yeah.
So he is unbelievably well-spoken. I thoroughly enjoyed listening to Cam talk. I mean, he was talking about, obviously, if Jae Crowder leaves, when Jae Crowder leaves, Jae Crowder's already gone, technically, who benefits from that? Well, it's Cameron Johnson. He's the one who's going to get those minutes. And, he stated, it's a great opportunity. It's unfortunate kind of the way that it went down, but, he looks forward to that opportunity. And one of the most mature things that he said is they asked him about the rookie extension, right? I mean, he's somebody who this past offseason could have had a rookie extension occur. Obviously it didn't. And they when he was asked about that, he's like, I'm under contract. Like I'm under contract for a season, and it's this season. So I'm going to focus on this season. And I thought it was a very intelligent way to answer that question. Did you catch, kind of what his drift was?
Yeah.
Very well spoken, that dude, man. I'd love to sit and just like bullshit with Cam Johnson.
Yeah,
I would.
Yeah, he's my favorite player for a reason, because he just reminds
seriously.
me of myself, just well spoken, standing
a lot of
tall
hair,
and talented, a lot of hair, a mole on my chin. He's just amazing, and I think that when you have him and Mikhail as your wings, it's just going to be incredible to watch. Like, I heard he looked bulkier. I wanted to hear a question.
He looked bulkier, man.
I feel like maybe it's the undershirt thing. Has anybody ever asked him, hey, what's the undershirt for? What is the reason for wearing that?
I was thinking about it.
Someone has to ask him.
Is this,
I hate it.
Now that you're going to a starting power forward position, is this the year where you lose the undershirt? Is that something meant for just people on the bench? But I don't think people take me seriously. So
He must have a tattoo or something. Doesn't want to show anybody. But honestly, like that was
He
something I
looked
used to
bigger
do when
though,
I was
man.
younger. When I was insecure in my arms, when I used to have like, I don't know, rosacea on my arms, I used to wear those big shirts that cover him up. So, but like, dude, he's well spoken. He knows exactly what he needs to do when he comes into this season. He's the one guy I think everyone's looking forward to seeing and improving because there's a lot on his shoulders going into the season. Because he's going to be taking over that number 4 spot. Monty kind of smiled a little bit, like, oh, like I can't really say much, but it's going to happen, and we're all waiting for it. And he needs those minutes. He plays so well with Mikhail and Deandre Ayton together on the court. So, I mean, his jersey, right? I'll get it someday.
I'm telling you, this is the one to get, man. This is the one to get. I was
that
like,
one.
dude,
okay, I want it. If I get one to be the sunburst with him or something, I don't know.
ooh, that'd be pretty cool too. That 2-3, that Wayman Tisdale, the 2-3 on it.
Mm-hmm.
No, I just to your point, you know, he did look bulkier to me. He's the one guy who I walked in, I was like, oh damn, somebody put on some weight in the offseason. You know, just he's a power forward. He's 6'8", but he's a modern power forward. And you know, if you talk to the majority, people don't think that he's a solid power forward just because of his size. To everybody, like a power forward's got to be 6'10". We got to have the twin towers because you're going to run into those teams that have size. And it comes down to having the ability to play a little 5 out consistently. And that's where, you know, we'll talk about Dario, but he was talking about that a little bit. But I think that, you know, trying out Cameron Johnson at the 4, you know, you're going to lose a little bit defensively, but I think that you gain a ton athletically. And that's what Cameron Johnson brings. And he looked like he is definitely primed and ready to have a much more athletic year. And I'm really excited to see how he fits into this offense regularly, you know, with regular minutes. You know, you take a look at his splits last year, right? I just had these up. Let me pull them up because it was very interesting to see how productive he was when he was starting versus when he wasn't last year, right? So total games last year, he played in 66. If you look at his starts versus his sitting as a reserve, he averaged 11.2 points per game, 3.9 rebounds, 1.4 assists, and he shot 42% from deep. As a starter, he also shot 42% from deep. He averaged 16.3 points, so about 5 more points, 1 total more rebound than normal, and just half of more of an assist. But the key here is he shot better from the field goal percentage overall. He shot 49.2% versus 44.6%. So he was much more consistent in his 16 starts than he was in his 50 appearances coming off the bench. And it'll be really interesting to see how he performs this year in that role.
Yeah, he's a perfect guy next to DA to spread the floor. I just think he is. And, you know, his size, of course, boxing out, that's the one thing. He just needs
the
to
rebounding will be
on that.
The rebounding.
Yeah, that was the toughest thing to watch him try to do in the playoffs. So
yeah, without a doubt. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. As we mentioned a little bit earlier, though, we do have the return of
the Sarge smoke break.
Yeah, man bun and all. Dario Sarge is rocking the man bun this year. And it was just, again, you see Dario walk in, you're like, fuck, that guy, I forgot about you. We tried our hardest to keep him in our thoughts last year, but you know what? It just kind of faded away. Like he's going to bring a presence. He's going to bring knowledge. He's going to bring connectivity to this offense and to the second team unit that I think is going to be invaluable. I really do. What he does at his position. Remember how successful Campaign was with Dario Saric?
Yeah.
And look last season how unsuccessful Campaign was without Dario Saric. It's going to benefit Campaign more than anybody.
Yeah, and John Carl brings up, we'll be softer without Crowder. But have you ever had a cigarette put out in your arm or somewhere on your body? I mean, actually, don't answer that. If that's childhood trauma, please don't answer that. That's Dario, though. I mean, I don't know if he brings more toughness, though. I'm not saying like he's replacing Crowder, but he does so much on the floor you forget about and you miss, right? Just kind of running the second team.
Good and bad.
Good and bad. I mean,
it's like, why can't this guy make a layup? It's like, fuck, three putbacks. He didn't get one in and he fell on the ground.
And I didn't see any of his presser, but I did see the pictures and he looks great. He looks like Goro from I think it's Goro from Mortal Kombat. He looks just like him. So I'm ready for him to be beasting down there again, man.
He's obviously excited to get back. He's somebody who was locked in. He said, how did he spend his summer? He spent a couple weeks, and then he was preparing for the Euro League, and he's been playing over there. He's been getting conditioned, which I think is great because, it's a great experience for players when they go and they play for their national teams, right? Or for the Olympics. Like, I think that was unbelievably beneficial for Devin Booker. It really put him in the mindset of, you know what, not only do I belong, but like I'm one of the best in the world. So try to stop me. I think it's really valuable for that to occur with the overseas players because they get much more responsibility in those minutes, right? Like Dario Saric is playing great EuroLeague basketball in more minutes that he'll ever see in a game. Well, probably comparable, but like he's a starter over there. Whereas here, he's backing people up and he's not playing in some nights due to matchups. And, if the Suns, but one thing that I like that he said is like, he's like, one thing that we lacked last year, because one of the questions was, is there anything that you saw the Phoenix Suns last season do that frustrated you because you knew if you were out there, it would be better, and he was talking about playing some more 5-out. When you got JaVale, DA, and Bismack, you're not going to play a lot of 5-out basketball. But with Dario, you can. And I think that that's going to be another wrinkle that the Phoenix Suns can deploy in certain situations that are going to allow them offensively to be successful and to throw some curveballs at the defense. You're not going to play 5-out for an entire 48 minutes. But if you take, like 13 minutes during, from the first to second quarter when Booker and Ayton and Chris Paul are on the bench and, you're up by 5 points and you can run some 5-out and confuse a defense for a little bit and then add a 5-point lead and they come back in with 10 minutes. That's the kind of thing you can build on throughout the entire game and ultimately leads to victory. So I think that that's a very valuable aspect of this Phoenix Suns team heading into this season.
I thought it was going to be, what did you think you could do better out there? Sit on a ball? I don't know. Like he's really good at sitting on a ball.
Nobody falls down like me. I fall down on ball very well.
I can't wait to see that guy.
His accent was kind of tough.
Yeah, he's awesome.
And then the last guy, before we talk about some other Suns stuff, the last guy I saw before I left, Biz. Very well spoken, Bismack Biyombo. Very well spoken. Really enjoyed hearing him talk because, he's one of the executive committee members on the NBAPA. And, they were asking him questions about a lot of the things that are going on. And he goes, in these situations, I really find it beneficial to just listen and absorb. I was like, hey, that's what I'm doing here today. I'm just listening and absorbing. I'm like Bismack Biyombo. But he's fucking huge too. But
he's awesome, man.
Yeah,
he's just so underrated as one of the best guys in the NBA.
He really is. And they asked him, because he was a free agent. He chose to come back here. Obviously, the Suns had to make him an offer, but they asked him why, and he goes, you know what? I want to be in an organization that has winning at the center of what they do, and that's what this organization does. And I was just like, that's what you want to hear, man. That's what you want to hear.
Exactly. Especially from that guy who was a free agent. I think a lot of teams would have loved him. We got him back. It's insane. And he's just a good guy like that plays in it for our team. You just know the organization's going the right way.
100%. All right. Last thing I want to talk about before we get out of here today. Of course, the news came down, yesterday? What day is it? Monday? God, it feels like it's Wednesday. Yep. Came down Monday about Jae Crowder.
It's Jae Crowder.
Jae Crowder, and the Suns came to an agreement stating that he would not be a member or he would not participate in training camp as the Phoenix Suns try and explore trading him. What are your thoughts on that initially, Matthew?
It's kind of weird, but it is Jae Crowder, and you never really thought that anybody that would leave this team, because we talk about it so much, where it might be a player we might hate or something in the future. I think he's going to get a lot of shit in the future from the Suns fans. I don't think he's going to be hated.
No.
But, I mean, it's the only way for him to get out of it. One Flex kind of cleared it up and said, he's looking for that contract extension. The Suns aren't going to get it to him, so he's going to go somewhere else. It's just that simple. I didn't like the hype video thing. Was dumb. I thought it was very cheesy.
Yeah.
I don't know why you would need that. You proved yourself here in Phoenix. You proved to be a very valuable asset. Knowing that Cameron Johnson was going to take his starting minutes and eventually the ending minutes of the game, like he would be in the ending situations for the Suns. then that's tough for Jay. But still, it has to be done. Like we're not winning with you in the starting lineup. We're not winning with you ending the games. So someone has to take your place, and that's what's going to happen. And he's going to go with his contract, and it's fine. It's not going to mess up any. You know what? Maybe the toughness a little bit, but then we'll watch him on the other team. Be like, he's a fake tough guy. That's what's going to happen. We're going to say he's a fake tough guy, yeah, and he always has been, right?
Man.
No, but I don't know, man. As long as he doesn't go to a team like the Mavericks or a team like the Warriors, some team are going to compete with.
But the Suns determined that though. This isn't a free agent leaving. They're going to trade him, so I highly doubt they're going to trade him to a competitor. My question is, with this news, is he now devalued? Because we knew there was already rumors that the Phoenix Suns, and Brian Windhorst had reported on this last week, that the Suns were actively shopping him. But it's now come to the point where he's not even included in team activities because they're trying to shop him. And when that kind of thing happens, we've seen this in the past. We know this because we're Suns fans. These assets are now devalued because, whoever's buying Jae Crowder can sit there and go, well, we were going to give you this, but this guy doesn't want to be there. So we're kind of doing you a favor getting him out of there. So therefore we're not going to give you enough. Knowing that this is an expiring contract at the end of the year, knowing that you're not going to get a massive value on it, do you think that the Phoenix Suns will end up just trading him to another organization, trying to get some picks and a distressed asset as well that they can ultimately waive?
Yeah, definitely. Unless he's included in something bigger, I think it's going to be just like the first round pick or something like that. That's what Flex said last time we talked about it, but it makes more and more sense. That's all we're going to get. The Bogdanovich thing already went through. He's playing for the Pistons.
There you
Pistons.
go.
Yeah, so that's gone and that's fine. Unless he's included in something else, man. Is it weird that I just don't care that we don't get back too much? I mean, I don't know who else I would want other than an SGA, but that's a bigger deal right there.
Well, that's a deal that leads to a deal kind of thing. And I'll tell you this,
exactly.
I wrote that piece for Brightside about dealing Jae Crowder could ultimately set the path to obtaining Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And I broke it down. It's like, you trade him to the Knicks, you get Cam Reddish and a pick with it. You use that pick to get SGA. Man, I got fucking roasted. Not by Suns fans, but SB Nation actually retweeted that article, and people were like, Darth Voida, you should be ashamed to write about the NBA and stuff like that. And I was just like,
really?
Whatever. Yeah, it's
so weird to have an opinion and it's just shot down. It's like, okay, things happen all the time in sports where you're just like, what the fuck happened? You know what I mean?
It's funny because the guy who said that, and I clicked on his profile, and every one of his tweets or retweets of something or response to a tweet was something like that. Like, you suck at what you do. Get a new job. And he's like a Jets fan. The guy who was like a Jets fan.
Oh, of course he's miserable.
Exactly. It's like, you know what? Always remember that Twitter's not real. Twitter's not a real place. We utilize that as a tool to communicate about the Phoenix Suns. We have a lot of great Twitter followers.
Yeah.
If you follow us on Twitter at SunsJam. But at the end of the day, it's not real. None of these people are showing up in my work and telling me I'm doing a bad job. I'm like, dude, I thought it was so says Jay, says, sorry, Voida, that's my burner.
I'm sure it is.
Listen, Justin, if your burner is a Jets account, dude, that is next level hiding. That's some good burner right there.
Let's make me a Jets fan.
Yeah, make myself a Jets fan and randomly tell people that follow Phoenix Suns that they should just stop covering the NBA. But at the end of the day, wherever Jae Crowder goes, like you said, Godspeed to him. He was part of a lot of great moments here. Again, I just think it's unfortunate, and it's that last thing that added that kind of cloud over the Suns media day today, with the Sarver situation, with people asking about Game 7, and then now Jae Crowder not wanting to be here. It was just kind of it was a hospital waiting room, as Brian Windhorst said.
They just want to get going. They just want to start the season and just play. That's the feeling I got from it. They're just ready to play, ready to prove themselves, and they're trying to move past this the best they can.
Any other questions about Media Day, Matthew?
I don't think I have any other questions, man. What did Windhorst smell like? Did he smell good?
Shaving cream.
Did he? I pictured him as that.
I got it right up behind him. I'm like,
on the back
Gillette,
of the
the best a man can get.
That's cool. No, I'm very happy you got to go. That's awesome, man. It's kind of like a dream come true, right? You grew up a Suns fan, and people do this for a living, and you're just like, oh, that'd be cool to go to that, and you're there. you're doing it.
Yeah,
So,
it was really fun to
very
experience
surreal,
it.
right?
You know, obviously it was fun to represent the Jamsters there. Obviously, you know, bright side of the sun as well. Thanks to Dave King and the bright side people for, you know, letting me be there and experience that event. It was really a good time. It just got me amped,
Good.
dude. Like I'm
Good.
so ready for the season to begin,
Yeah.
to start covering the Suns again. You know, it's just like after Game 7, you and I were like, dude, how can we go on? And that's how a lot of us were. But like you and I have a podcast and obligations to our team and to our fan base and to the fan base. And we're just like, dude, this is gonna suck. Do we have to do this all over again? And then like I see Chris Paul walking in those threads. I was like, let's fucking go. like when's opening day?
Yeah.
When's opening day? Like
Same here,
let's
man.
go.
I can't wait. I can't wait.
I can't wait either. So you want to get together on Wednesday and talk about the Southeast Division? I think we've put that off for 2 podcasts now.
We sure can.
Okay,
I'm
let's
sure
do
the
that.
Jamsters
So,
are waiting. Yeah.
Jamsters, I know you're waiting for us to preview the Southeast Division, one that includes the Mavericks, the Spurs, the Rockets, 2 other teams, the Pelicans, and what's the other team? Forget. What's the other team?
We'll just throw the Hawks in there.
The Nuggets. I think it's the Nuggets. The Thunder. So we'll be there's still the Hawks in there. We'll be previewing that on Wednesday's podcast. Again, make sure you subscribe, rate, and review wherever you're listening or watching this. You can follow me on Twitter at Darth Voida. You can follow Matthew
At Matthew Lissy.
And on that note, we'll see you guys come Wednesday about carry the 1, 8 o'clock. Oh, I forgot. I was going to show you real quick. This was my view. For those of you who are listening, you could just like be like, okay, I'm done with this podcast.
Yeah.
Where the fuck did I put it? Is it overlay? What did I do?
Excuse my laugh. That last
Here we-
laugh was obnoxious.
here we go. Here you go.
There is.
And you can see, so if you're looking, you can see off to the left, you can see Brian Windhorst and Mark Spears. Directly in front of me is Kellen Olson. And then sitting right next to him with a little sling on his shoulder is Dave King. Dave has a hurt. He has a hurt wing right now. He has shoulder surgery. So
Did you have to carry him in there?
Yeah, he hopped on my back, and I was like, I got you, Yoda. So, yeah, there you go. So subscribe, rate, review, all that fun stuff.
Yep. And go Cowboys and go home and love your family.
Oh, did they end up winning?
They won.
Ooh,
Cooper Rush 3-0, baby, as a starter.
Oh God, fuck Dak.